Hello, welcome to Curious Mystics podcast. If you're here from before and you were here with Spiritual Momma's podcast, you know us. I'm Aericka.
And I'm Kim.
And welcome back.
Yeah, today's our first episode with our rebrand, our new title, and we're so excited to have you guys with us.
Yeah, and it's our 6-month anniversary. So we thought we'd do something special and kind of change it up a little bit. We decided to change our name because we were feeling like that, like Spiritual Mommas wasn't necessarily like fitting what we were doing and how we felt about us and how we felt about the show. Mm-hmm. And we went with Curious Mystics because if you actually look up the definition of mystic, it's like people who have been touched by spirit or God in some way, even in the slightest way, and are yearning for more / want more education about it, want to learn more. And so that's kind of why we went with that.
Yeah, there's an element to it of seeking more information and knowledge of things that maybe aren't scientifically provable or known, but still able to be researched and studied, which I think is very applicable. And originally when we started, we had this idea of where the podcast was going to go, and it kind of just took on its own mind, its own life here. So we went down a slightly adjacent path.
Yeah. I think it was like destined to go that way anyways, but I think we definitely had a different idea. But that's okay. It's been great. This has been so much fun. And as you could tell today, you could see us. If you're watching on different things, you can actually see us, which is new for us. And it's almost like when we did our first episode, we were kind of nervous. Like I'm kind of like nervous that people can see us.
I know. I'm like, should I was saying this before we started. I'm like, I should talk slower, but that feels weird.
Yeah.
So maybe I won't do that.
No, don't talk slower, because then I have to talk slower and I can't talk slow.
It just comes. So.
Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at right now. So we're very excited.
So as part of our rebrand 6-month episode celebration, we decided that we were going to do a little bit of a Q&A with each other and, kind of reintroduce ourselves, get to know, well, we know each other, but for you guys to get to know us on a little bit of a different level. So,
yeah. And I guess we could just start quickly. I do recommend going back to the first episode if you're just joining us, but if you don't want to, I'm Aericka. I am actually a nurse practitioner, but am now also a shamanic practitioner. So that's been a new development for me over the last probably year, I guess I would say. I still work in the nurse practitioner field and am working towards working in the shamanic field. So very cool there.
Yeah. Part of the intro is like getting to know like how we got to this point. So I don't know if you want to expand more upon that now, like how you got from where you were to where you are now, or if you want me to go first.
Go for it.
Okay. Thank you. I'm Kim. I, in my day-to-day life, work as a mental health therapist, and I am exploring all of the aspects of my spirituality. So if you have listened before, you know this, but I grew up in a very religious household, and that just didn't resonate with me. Not when I was little, not while I was growing up, and still doesn't really to this day. But not that I don't acknowledge that space for people. It just isn't my calling, I guess. So started to lean into some of this exploration of what does it even mean to be spiritual? What does that look like for me? What things are resonating more with me, and how can I pull that into my identity and my practice on a day-to-day basis.
I don't remember. In the first episode, did you talk about how you kind of came to this realization? I don't remember.
I don't remember either. We recorded it, I listened to it, and then I let it go.
Exactly.
So, Gosh, I don't remember. I think we talked about our dark nights.
Mm.
And for me, there's a lot of different pieces that go into it, I think. For me, there was um a lot of conflict in my personal relationships
Mm-hmm.
in really difficult ways, which was super uncomfortable. And I was really contemplating just like upending my life and,
Mm-hmm.
that, but that's not what I wanted to do either. So there was a battle going on there.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to that, I have always had this strange thing happen. People always look at me funny when I say this, but I moved into this home that we bought in like 2008. And from the day we moved in, throughout the past however many years we've been here, I will see things at night when I'm
I
going to
see dead
bed.
people.
Like, yeah, at this point, I wish it was. It's not even people. It's just like
Oh gosh, yeah.
shapes and colors and random things will just pop up into my field of vision as I'm going to sleep, to the point that, like, the first night that we stayed in this house, I thought that there was a giant spider coming down like a chandelier over my head. I thought that there was a comforter being like put over my face, like eyes open, wide awake, seeing these things.
Oh my gosh.
It's gotten less aggressive.
They need to calm down.
Yes, it's gotten less aggressive, and I'm much more comfortable with like recognizing what's going on and switching. But yeah, there was a lot of stuff that was just happening, and so that was part of me understanding or trying to understand, which didn't even happen right away. I mean, it took some time before I was like, okay, what is actually going on here? How do you feel like it was for you?
So I did grow up in a religious house as well, but it was a more kind of accepting of your thought processes
Mm-hmm.
on that. And I don't know. It's like it's like over the years, I've always kind of known that there was something there. And I think in like the mid early 2000s, I started to like I could see energies and I guess maybe auras, but I looked at it more like energy. I could see people's energy. I could, at one point I saw like a little demon sitting on somebody's shoulder, just stuff like that. And then that kind of like went away.
Mm-hmm.
And when I became a nurse practitioner, and because it took so much energy on my part to be a nurse practitioner, and I had to protect my own energy because otherwise I was going to take on everybody else's. And
Yeah.
so I kind of stuffed that all down, not necessarily even purposely, but because I had to. And then, with the whole 2020 thing going on, and then everything that happened with that, and I had like the dark night of soul then too. I went to a Reiki session and then that kind of like unlocked everything.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then since then it's just been like gangbusters. I'm just like, what now? What now? What now? What now? So, yeah.
Yeah. I think that's one of the things that if you've listened to us, you may know. But Aericka, you're very much the type of person to like, okay, I'm jumping in head first and let's get through this. And so things happen much more quickly for you. And I am very much like, okay, do I even want to acknowledge that? Let's figure out everything I can before we jump in.
Mm-hmm.
So I tend to slow things down a little bit, or try to.
Yeah. Yeah. Which you just need to jump.
Mm-hmm. You keep telling me that.
All right. So I have a question. What do you remember most about our very first episode and how did it shape your expectation for our podcast?
Oh, I like the second part of that question. I think we just realized that I don't know much about our first episode, that I don't remember much. We talked about who we are. We talked about our dark nights and how we got here. So I do remember those things. However, I think the thing that I remember the most has nothing to do with the actual content of the first episode and more this process of jumping in, where I had so many concerns going on in my head and I was just trying to like shove them out.
Mm-hmm.
Don't think about it. Don't be too anxious. You're prepared. Don't worry about it. You're going to do fine. Get through it. There was this feeling for me of like, this is happening too soon. this is happening too quickly, which, tends to happen when we're together. So
Yeah. Just like shoving you over the cliff. Go, go, go.
I know. I could never do anything that scares me with you because you're just going to be like, go,
do it.
Shove me off the plane. But that is something that I remember so much because I feel differently about it now. I feel much more comfortable with the process that we have. But it was like a moment of pause, like, oh, am I really doing this? Is this really what we're getting into right now? I was like super cautious.
Yeah, definitely. I was so nervous and it was so weird. Like you and I talk all the time, and we were actually together in your house when we did this, and you and I talk about this stuff all the time, but then we put the equipment on and it became like, like I don't know how to talk, I don't know how to act, like it was so like kind of like awkward feeling. And then also, like you said, just having that, like, okay, we're literally putting ourselves out there. And I didn't necessarily want to tell anybody because I was kind of embarrassed. But now I'm like, telling everybody, doing it, whatever.
Putting yourself
putting myself fully out there. So
yeah, I think it was less about the content and more about like the feeling and the experience of actually starting that kind of stuck with me. So it sounds like it was similar for you.
Definitely.
What do you like to do for fun?
So this is an interesting question, being in my mid 40s and having kids and like a job. Yeah, I would say like hiking, going on adventures, vacationing with my husband and family. Like I love to travel. I like to go find new things to do, find new experiences, explore new areas. I like to read. I don't always. I go through spurts where I'll like read, and then not read for like months. But I do like to read. Yeah, that's kind of what I do.
I feel the same about a lot of those things. I think sometimes when this question is asked, I jump into what I have liked to do in the past, but I don't always get a chance to do it. And I don't know if it still resonates. And for all the same reasons, right? Being a mom, being at this age, being in this place and life and work and families and all of that. But I will say that I think as much as I like things like hiking, I don't do them often. I think what I like more is just being in nature and having new experiences.
Yeah.
So that would probably be my go-to fun thing. And I mean, recently you and I went on a double date to the planetarium.
Yeah, that was fun.
I thought so.
Yeah.
I think things like that, I'm like, oh my God, let's do something that we've never done before and see how it goes. And
exactly. Yeah.
that's the stuff that I really, really enjoy. I do like to read. I'm sorry if you could hear that in the background. I do like to read, and I try to do it often. I'm part of a book club, and so once a month we get together. I don't always get through the book, though. And then there are times where I'm reading like 6 books at the same time. So, definitely comes in waves.
I've never been able to do that. I'm a one book at a time person. Always have been. Have to finish that book before I can start another one. I don't like having multi. I always thought that was weird.
I used to feel that way until I accepted the multiple formats of books. So I can have a physical book and an audiobook and an ebook and like be doing all of this at the same time.
That makes sense. Makes sense.
Then I started to open up a little bit more.
What has surprised you the most about hosting the podcast over the last 6 months?
That is a good question. I think it's hard for me to answer that because I didn't know what to expect going into it. So everything was kind of surprising, but I think out of everything, I would say it's been the growth that it's given me. Like and it's slow going. For me anyway, it's slow going. But my openness to explore more, to do more research, to try more things, to have more conversations, to reach out to new people that has been probably the most surprising thing for me because I don't typically push myself in that way.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. What
I
about for you?
want to change my answer because I like that one. Yeah, that one definitely, like how I feel like exponentially I've grown and you've
Yeah.
grown, like that has been crazy how much we've grown. But for me, I think it's like how easy it's
Mm,
been. Easy in that coming up with the topics with you, working
yes.
with you in general has been amazing. Um, how we've grown together
Yeah.
and how fun it's been to find new topics and just
Yeah.
like meet with you each week. And,
Mm-hmm.
it's been just like it's a fun, I don't dread doing it. Like
Yeah.
I look forward to it. And if I could do this all day, every day, I would prefer to be doing this
Mm-hmm.
than, my real job.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, anything how easy it's been.
I I definitely agree with you on all of that. I think it has been pretty simple, well, simple as much as it can be, for us to come up with topics to record. And anytime that we don't record, if we skip a week of recording, we're always like, wow, that was a weird week. Like,
Yeah, I didn't like that.
it was
Yeah.
strange not seeing you, not recording with you, not touching base, not talking about this
Yeah.
stuff.
Exactly. Exactly.
Hmm. I think it'll be interesting to see where it goes from here, to see how that continues to develop, because at this point we've been doing it for 6 months and it's been such a part of our routine that I'm excited to see how the next 6 months go with it too.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
If we could re-record any episode for the first time, which one would you want to do again?
It would be the meditation one. I did not like how that one went for me and I was very disappointed. It may have come off great. I think it did, like when you listen to it, and so don't judge it, people, when you listen to it. But for me, I was so excited to do it
Mm-hmm.
that I wasn't really sure where to start. And
Mm-hmm.
so like where I just felt like I didn't do it as much justice as I wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
And also that day I just wasn't feeling well. I was like very blah and just like not feeling life, I guess. I don't know. So I
Mm-hmm.
feel like I just didn't have the energy that I would have wanted. And I would love to do, I do want to go back to that meditation episode too, because there is a ton about meditation.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if I could actually redo that one, that would be the one I would do.
I wasn't expecting that to be your answer, but as you're saying it, I remember that day. I remember immediately after we finished, you were like, that wasn't good. And I was like, no, I think it was. Like, I had no idea while we were doing it that you felt that way. And then afterwards, after it was like edited and put out, I'm like, yeah, it sounds great. I don't know what you're talking about. So,
Yeah,
but you're still holding on to
I am.
it. For those of you guys listening now, I would encourage you to go back and hear that. And you can see, I mean, I'm sure that you'll see it's not at all what Aericka thinks it was.
I know. But I know how much energy I put into the episodes, and I just wasn't mustering on that one.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
how about you?
I think for me, it would be the astral projection, which is out now, hopefully. By the time you hear this, it might not be.
I can't remember.
By the time you hear this, it'll either be out or be out very shortly.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it would be that one only because there was so much information that I learned and I was trying to absorb it all. And I think there's so much that I missed. And I think it would be cool to like learn that all for the first time again.
Yeah. Yeah. The raising the vibration one too is really awesome to do. Just
Yeah.
like if I wanted to go back in time and like re-experience that.
Yes.
Not because of like a bad place, but because it was a fun place.
Mhm.
The raising your vibration one was definitely a fun one.
Yeah.
So.
I think so too. And that had so much good information. Again, another one you guys should definitely be listening to.
Definitely. Definitely. All right. What's my next question? What were some of the biggest challenges that we encountered and how did we overcome them together?
Oh. Oh. Are you asking that as like in reference to the podcast, or are you asking that in general?
Sure.
Okay.
Whatever.
Okay.
Whichever way you want to go.
I think you and I don't really have that many struggles, so I think this is a hard one to answer. I
Mm-hmm.
do think that our personalities have such a push pull, but we fall into the flow of it so easily, which I
Mm-hmm.
love.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes when I find that maybe I'm like pulling a little bit more, it's an internal thing. And for me, in the moment, that might feel like, this is uncomfortable. I don't like this. This is a challenge. But for me, that's always a moment for me to be like, check yourself. This
Mm-hmm.
is something you need to push yourself on. So do it in whatever way you need to, or it's something that you need to verbalize what you're thinking or feeling.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, so there's a positive side to it. There's an internal struggle to it. And I think that applies when we're talking about the podcast or anything else. But we don't
Mm-hmm.
really have, I don't think we really have that many struggles.
Yeah, especially like as a duo.
Yeah.
I think we work really well together, which is awesome. Um, Especially because and here's the thing, I never realized we actually had different personalities, because when we're together, we're
Yeah.
like, bubbly and like talkative and
Yeah.
da 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 da. But what I've learned through this podcast is that we actually have very different personalities, but it's been really good
Mm-hmm.
to have that duality, because you kind of keep me going and in the right direction and grounded, and I'm pushing you, and
Mm-hmm.
all that stuff. But I think the tech was kind of a thing. At
Mm-hmm.
least on my end, the tech
Yeah.
has been a thing. Um Figuring out like the sound, figuring out
Mm-hmm.
how to do this, how to edit, how to do all that stuff. So the tech's
Yeah.
been a bit, because I'm not techie. I'm not a techie person. So
I just want to say though that I very much appreciate that you take that on because like I can figure things out, but I don't really want to. So I appreciate that you're doing that, and I hope that overcoming that challenge is fulfilling for you.
Yes, yes, yeah, it has been. It's been good. So,
Okay. Uh non podcast related, but what do you think is the best time for you to relax, and when's the best time for you to be active or creative?
well, we've talked about this many times. I am
Mm-hmm.
not a morning person,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not a night person. I'm like a nine to two, 9
Yeah.
a.m. to 2 p.m. Like even 10 a.m. to
Mm-hmm.
2 p.m. is kind of like my best active, like brains working,
Mm-hmm.
get me then.
Mm-hmm.
Time to relax, definitely like 7 to like 11 p.m., like 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. I'm kind of a just want to chill. I really don't necessarily want to talk to people. I don't want to do anything unless it's like the weekend, but like
Yeah.
during the week, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
What happens from that 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. range?
chugging through.
You're just struggling to get along.
I usually nap. No, I want to nap, but don't end up doing it.
Yeah.
But I do, but I can, I work out during that time.
Mm.
That's like my best time to work out. I'm not a morning workouter.
Yeah.
Like that between 2 and 5, I would want to work out or like go for a walk or like do something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Okay. That's pretty interesting.
mm-hmm. How about you?
I think for me, I'm definitely a much more of a morning person. I would prefer to get up and get started, um, unless I haven't had a good night's sleep, which happens more often than it should.
Mm-hmm.
But if everything goes perfectly, then I like to get up in the morning and get going. By like 7 a.m., I want to be out of bed, moving, getting things going for my day, being creative, being productive, doing all of the things.
Mm-hmm.
And then like dinner time. Dinner time, I'm like, okay, I'm just described an old lady. That's what I am. I'm like, dinner time, because I say dinner time and I'm thinking like 5 o'clock.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, me too. Yeah. Like between 5 and 7 is dinner
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
Absolutely.
So that would be my time to relax. I want to eat my meal and unwind. I like to take my shower at the end of the day, and be all ready to be in bed. If I could be in bed by 7, I would, but most of the time I'm not. Usually it's like 10. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think that would be it for me. The mornings are definitely my more creative time, my more active time, and the evenings are my wind down time.
Yeah. Interesting.
Which sucks because my work days, the way that they're scheduled, is like usually I'm working till 7 p.m.
Yeah, you do have late hours.
So, yeah.
I used to and hated it. So now I make it when I want to, which has been amazing.
That's a goal of mine for sure.
All right. What have you learned about the podcast production or storytelling that you didn't expect to discover?
I don't know if this is how it is for everybody. I assume that a lot of people have gotten to this point, especially when you're giving information the way that we are. But the research that goes into any given episode can be extensive for 45 minutes to an hour of an episode. It's like, okay, we're going to cram this information into this short amount of time, but the amount of time that I spend researching and trying to put it all together, trying to understand it enough to put it together, that can be much more extensive than I realized. And I think for the podcast that we have going into it, you know, it was like, let's share our journey with you. So that was part of the process too. It's not that I mind doing the research. I'm going to be doing it anyway. But then I don't want to, you know, we've talked about this. We're not trying to have episodes that are 2 hours long. So
Right.
Okay, how do I shove this information? What information is the most important to start with for a 45-minute episode?
Yeah. No, absolutely. I agree with that 100%. Again, I mean, I don't know, I guess I knew I was going to enjoy it, but how much I enjoy it. Like, I just really like doing it.
Yeah.
I like sharing the knowledge, but that's kind of how I always am anyways. But I love the fact that I'm able to do it in this format.
Yeah.
You know, I like being able to share it with you. I like to be able to share it with other people. And I agree with you 100% though, is the time, like how figuring out what to say in that space.
Even when we did, you know, we did the Raising Vibrations and we did a whole series on that. So that was like 3 or 4 episodes long. And even that, each of those episodes was like severely condensed. We could have gone so much more in depth with them. So,
and we may.
Yeah. I think we should revisit that at some point. But
yes, definitely.
Where do you feel the most aligned with yourself and your spirituality?
What do you mean? Like in where I am physically? Like what do you mean by that?
I mean it in all the ways. Is there a specific place geographically? Is there a specific place locally? Is there a specific place in your body? Is there a specific space that you feel the most aligned with yourself and your spirituality?
I would have to say that my office or my Zen, I call it my Zen space. I didn't have a space for myself for the longest time, and I kind of took over this bedroom and just really put kind of heart and soul into making it mine and making it the way I wanted to. And I did a ton of like energy work when I did start this process to make the energy good and aligned and helpful and all that stuff. So I would say physically here, also in nature in general. And in my body, I tend to be, I can feel it like in my heart, and I can also feel it in my crown. Like I'm very like my crown is very open. So I think that I feel it there.
Okay. I know that we've talked about that before, and so those definitely resonate with what you've mentioned in the past. And you did take a lot of time to make sure that your space was exactly what you wanted it to be. Like some people can put together a space like that in like a day, and you had to like make sure that everything was cleansed out just how you wanted it to be, which is perfect because then when you walk into that space, you can immediately feel comfortable.
It's my space. Yeah, I know I'm like this is what I'm doing in this room. Now I do work, like I work in this room too, but at the same time, that's less of what I feel like I do in here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Which is important, because when you work in a space like that, you don't want to walk into the room and be like, oh, okay, here we go.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, in nature, at the beach, 100% at the beach. But so anytime my feet are in the sand, I absolutely feel the most connected with myself, with my spirituality, with me in some way. Anytime that the sun is on my face,
Mm-hmm.
so that can be in my backyard. So I try every morning to get out and just stand out in the sun for like a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the places that I feel the most connected. And then I think internally, when I'm thinking about where in my body I feel it most, I would say that I feel it most in my gut. I'm like, and that's something that's a little bit newer for me, because we talk about, you know, like somatic exercises, somatic therapies, and things like that. And that's the type of modality that I am drawn to the most when it comes to therapy. But in a day-to-day sense, I haven't always trusted my gut.
Yeah, I find that interesting for you that you're saying that it's in your gut. I like that.
So I have found that at least over the past couple months, and definitely more recently, I've become a little bit more in tune with that and kind of checking in with myself. And I will always check there first. Like, does this feel right?
Mm-hmm.
Does this feel connected? Does this feel aligned? Does this feel off? Does this feel confusing?
Mm-hmm.
And just learning more about what my body is saying in that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is interesting because you're in human design, you're not a sacral authority, and sacral authority is very much like yes, no in your gut.
Mm-hmm.
I forget what you are, but you're not sacral. You're
Splenic.
Splenic. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Which is still a lot, like knowing intuitively what's good for you and right for you, but also it's like not quite in the gut. So
yeah. So it's not something that I check in with and immediately know.
Mm-hmm.
It is something I have to sit with, but I can, and that's what I've been doing more of, is sitting with it. Like, okay, is this okay? Like, let me think about it and check in with how I feel in my gut when I'm asking that question.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So, because if I think about any other area in my body, if I'm checking in and asking, like, is this yes? Is this no? Am I connected? Whatever the question is, I find that I don't always resonate with whatever my body's saying, or maybe it's not saying anything. So,
yeah. I think a lot of like intuitive work really is you have to listen to your brain, but I think a lot of it is how does your body react? And if your body's reacting a certain way, then you have to listen to that as well, not necessarily just what your mind's saying.
Yeah.
Definitely.
There's a lot to that. Maybe at some point we can talk about it, but there can be so many reasons that those two things could be misaligned. So,
yep, definitely.
Okay.
What are some new directions or ideas that you're excited to explore in the future episodes?
I'm excited to revisit some things that we've done, and we have some ideas coming up that I know will be exciting. I don't want to get into like too specific, because I don't know yet where that's going to go, like where we're going to go, but I'm excited that, actually, I'll put it this way. I think I'm excited that whatever we do, wherever we go, that it will be an opportunity to continue to grow on my own personal journey. There's been so many things that we've talked about that I've practiced as we've talked about them and have resonated, and other ones that I'm like, oh, I just can't get that, or it's just not for me.
Yeah.
but I like learning that about myself. And like, so there's
Mm-hmm.
so many things that I do on a day-to-day basis now that are like, have grown from this
Yeah,
process.
definitely. Yeah, I agree. I'm excited with the new name.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's, I don't know, kind of like solidified us, like I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but yeah, I'm excited that I feel like things are gonna open up now.
Mm-hmm.
At least I hope so. That's where I'm
Yeah,
at.
it feels more aligned.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Do you prefer spring or fall?
I'm gonna have to say fall. I do enjoy spring, but I'm not a rain person,
Mm-hmm.
and it still is kind of cold. And then there's like the snow aspects. Um, so yeah, I like the fall. I like the smell of fall. I like the
Mm-hmm.
colors of fall.
Yeah.
I like the activities you get to do in fall, like the food in fall. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
fall person.
I agree. There's so many um, like festivals and carnivals and things that happen in the fall. There's so much about the types of foods that you can eat in the fall, especially here in New England. Like
Mm-hmm.
you get that like sweet and savory mixture and
Mm-hmm.
so I also prefer the fall. I prefer summer, but out of
Wow.
the spring and fall, I would say the fall for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
What about day or night? We know we're not a morning person, but
That's a hard one because I like the night in that I like the stars. I like the planets. I like how it feels kind of at night like that. Like
hmm
there's a certain feeling to it. I don't like I don't like to be up late.
yeah.
Like I'm not like let me like start my day at night.
hmm
No, I don't want to stay up till like 2 o'clock in the morning. I just don't like to do that. So
hmm
I'm gonna have to say day, I guess.
Okay.
How about you?
I feel the same way that I'm not like trying to be up all night, but I do prefer the night. I prefer the reflection that happens, the calm that happens.
Mm-hmm.
I like to, interact and be productive and creative and all of that during the day, but I'm expending so much energy.
Mm-hmm.
So I like when I get to reclaim that or when I get to relax and decompress.
Mm-hmm.
So I do prefer the night.
Yeah, there's something about like there's like a stillness to nighttime
hmm
that's not in the day.
hmm
And you can actually feel that. We've talked briefly about how I had to stay up all night
Yeah.
for a shamanic journey that I did.
hmm
And the feelings of like, so let's see, what time did I start? I started at dusk. And
hmm
like you could still hear and feel and see all the activity. You could hear the cars, you could all that stuff. And then like from like midnight to about 4 a.m. was just still.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was just such a weird. You could feel it and see it, and then
Yeah.
between like 4 and the 6 a.m., it's like life started again, and it
Yeah.
was pretty cool. So
Yeah. There's something about, I mean, I just can't. I don't have enough in me to be staying up all night anyway. But there's something about that, especially around that time of night. And here, I mean, I live in a city and there's always something going on. So I would say that even the die down and the stillness that happens, it doesn't necessarily happen here till like 2 a.m. From like
mm,
2 to 4 is usually where we get it. And
okay.
then it starts to pick back up again. But I do enjoy getting to spend time there every once in a while. So
Definitely
sweet or savory?
sweet all the way.
All the way.
All the way. Don't like if you hand me a bag of chips or hand me a bag of cookies, it's gonna
hmm
be the cookies.
Always.
Always.
I agree. I am surrounded by people in this house who prefer to have salty and savory. And I'm like, what is wrong with you?
Yeah, no, no. I
But
unfortunately live with a husband who likes to bring home sweets for everybody, but doesn't like to eat them for himself. Um, I'm like, stop, just stop, because you know who's gonna eat that? Me. Stop
yep.
it. I'm like,
Yeah.
you don't even like it. Why do you bring it home?
hmm
But yeah, I don't know. But yeah, definitely
Agreed.
sweet all the way.
Okay.
Hmm. What are some? Well, We already talked about that one. Like, all right, if you could go back to our first episode, what advice would you give yourself now?
Mm. If I could go back to our first episode, I would probably give myself the advice to. This is going to sound so cliche, so cheesy, but trust the process. Trust the process. There is nothing that we have done so far that has been brain surgery, that has been, somebody's life is in our hands, that has been like, I have had so much anxiety at times that was unnecessary.
Mm-hmm.
Unnecessary. Everything has turned out exactly how it's needed to turn out. And we've figured it out along the way. Mm-hmm. Even if that means, hey, we were going to do this episode, but instead we'll do that episode, yeah, trust the process.
Yeah, I agree with you with that 100%. I think it would be, don't worry about what others think.
Mm-hmm.
Just put it out there.
Mm-hmm.
And if people think you're weird, they think you're weird.
Yeah. Like, so what?
If they think you're cliche, like you said, cliche for doing a podcast because everybody's doing a podcast, who cares? Like,
so what?
You're doing it for you. It's fun. So.
Yeah. I think that's something that, we talked a little bit about when we first started was let's get it going. And it's for us, if nothing else. But obviously we want more. We want to continue to grow. We want to, personally and as a community, we want to be able to build a community and develop all of that connection. But we're doing this first and foremost for us. So being able to continue to push ourselves to learn different things, to grow in different ways. And hopefully that resonates with people. Hopefully you can jump on board with that and want to be part of that journey or to share their journey with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I say that is that like, don't worry about other people. But at the same time, like I want people to enjoy what we're doing. And, the feedback we've gotten so far has been good. And I hope everybody just shares our information to everybody.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I think there's something to it where it's like the people who don't resonate with it, the people who have criticism, the people who don't like it, it's not for them.
Absolutely. So. Yeah. I asked my husband at one point, because he's not into any of this, for one. Two, he does not listen to podcasts. So he doesn't understand either aspect of this. And I said, you think I'm silly for doing this, don't you? And he's like, no. I was like, oh, okay.
All right.
He thought it was like the weirdest question that I asked him that. And I was like, okay.
Interesting.
So,
yeah. Is there anything that I didn't ask you that you would have wanted me to ask?
I don't know. I think you did pretty good.
Okay.
How about you? Do you think there's anything that... I have one more question, but...
it's probably the question you're going to ask.
Okay. If there's anything you've been wanting to say to our audience or to me that hasn't come up yet. It's the same question.
Okay. I think that I don't have anything pressing. I don't have anything that's like, yes, I wish you would have asked this, or this is what I want to say. If I am going to talk to our audience in particular, and say anything, it's probably what I would have wanted to hear as a listener. Do it. Do the thing. Go for it. Get out of your own way and just do it. Yep. It doesn't matter if you fail. It doesn't matter if it doesn't work. It doesn't matter if it's not what you thought it was going to be. The reverse can also be true. You can succeed. You can thrive. It can be better than you've ever imagined. And if it's not, you gave it your all. So
Mm-hmm.
do it.
Absolutely. 100%. I would say I would love for the listeners to interact with us.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to hear other people's stories.
Yeah.
I would love, to hear people's interests, what anybody else wants us to talk about. Um, yeah, I would love people to interact with us.
I agree. I am looking for that as well. So, what do we need to do, guys? Tell us. Tell us what you want to hear. Send us your stories. Send us your feedback. Let us know what works, what doesn't, what you're resonating with, what you want to hear more of.
Mm-hmm. And thank you. Thanks for
Yes.
listening and
Mm-hmm.
hanging out with us on a weekly basis.
I
And thank you
know.
to you, Miss Kim, for doing this with me, like jumping on this crazy idea.
And
And
thank you, Aericka, for helping me push to do it, because I could have sat on it for a while longer, but I'm glad that we did.
no, now, now. Let's be honest though. You're the one that's like, so when are we doing this? You're the one
Mm-hmm.
that like set up the day that we were going to record our first recording. Like you were pushing me. So
Yeah, but yes, you are right on that. I was. But I wouldn't have if we didn't have that conversation to begin with and start to talk about, like, every time we got together, you were like, we could have just recorded that. We went for a 2 mile walk. We could have just recorded
Could have
that.
just recorded that.
I was
Yeah.
like, oh, yeah.
That's true.
um, so yeah, I think, thank you, Aericka. Thank you to the
Mm-hmm.
listeners. And I hope that this 6 months gets to lead to a whole lot more.
Heck yeah. All right. Well, on that note, please like us, share us, comment,
Mm-hmm.
review us on whatever you listen to us, and stay tuned for the next 6 months plus. We'll have some other stuff coming up. And yeah, we look
We'll
forward to
talk
you
to you
guys
next
listening.
time.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.